As Nigerians and other relevant stakeholders prepare for the 2023 general election, many are hoping that the poll will produce leaders that will lead the country away from its many struggles and towards better outcomes. Hello and welcome. This is Political Standpoint. I am Precious Amayo. Now, to our conversation of the day, the number of people who vote during elections in the country has been on the decline. Voter apathy was even more evident during the 2019 presidential election, that saw only about 35% of registered voters turn out. The main contenders in that election were incumbent Muhammadu Buhari and Atiku Abubakar, who are part of the political class that has dominated Nigeria since independence in 1960. Their contest meant that there was to be no generational leadership change. But this time, a number of young individuals who are new in the political space are vying for the presidency, and there is belief in some quarters that the 2023 presidential election might throw up a new crop of leaders. One of the new faces is the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Dumebi Kachikwu, who joins me now from our Abuja studio. Good to have you join us. Dumebi Kachikwu, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Thanks for having me.
Let me start by congratulating you for picking up the presidential ticket of your party. That's the ADC. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I'm not sure if you were able to make the deadline for the submission of vice presidential running mates. A lot of presidential candidates have announced their vice presidential running mates. I'm not sure you've done that. I've not seen a report of that. Or if you also have what is now the common buzzword, a placeholder.
I did announce, or rather the party chairman did announce the vice presidential candidate last weekend.
So who is your vice presidential candidate, and why did you pick that person?
Well, Dr. Mani was one of the aspirants who contested during the primaries. He's from Niger State. He's a fine individual. He's an academician, and he possesses all the qualities required of a vice presidential candidate. I understand what's your question concerning placeholders. Obviously, the INEC guidelines in terms of submission does not make sense for most parties. People don't have enough time to react. So at this point, we have a vice presidential candidate, but we're still also exploring and looking to see what happens.
All right. Whilst you're exploring, your emergence as the presidential candidate of your party did not come without its controversies. And one of those controversies is what we saw play out in some of the presidential primaries of the bigger parties, in quotes. And that's the monetization of the process. And you have been accused of doing same. There were allegations that delegates were given about, I think, $100 each from your camp to ensure they vote for you. I just wanted to clarify that for us.
Yes, there were allegations, but the truth is that there was no vote buying on my part. Rather, those who made those allegations are those who were involved in vote buying. Evidence abounds out there, as I'm sure most media organizations have seen the evidence. My organization, my campaign organization, was not involved in vote buying. We won fair and square, and we must understand that there are people who are sore losers and react badly to losing. But we will continue to work with everyone who's willing to work with us. We'll continue to reach out across the aisle. And what's important is your motive. Why are you running for office? If it's about Nigeria, then you need to man up and think of how you can support those who are running to ensure that they deliver dividends of democracy to Nigerians.
And I will get to your motive in a moment, but I just want to give you the opportunity to clarify some of these controversies, and then we get to your vision actually for the country. But let me also ask you, you have said that you were going to take action against those who made these allegations against you? Have you taken any action, and what are those actions?
I have instructed my lawyers, and they are taking action. They will be speaking to the public on those actions very soon.
All right. The latest controversy is that of there was a report, I think it was over the weekend or during the course of the week rather, about allegations of tax fraud in the U.S. and that some of your properties in the District of Maryland has now been confiscated because of tax evasion to about the tune of $2.1 million. You have released a statement, but I also want to give you the opportunity to clarify that. Do you have a case of tax evasion in the U.S.?
Absolutely not. Again, that's another baseless accusation. But what we must not do, we must not dignify tabloids that continue to tarnish the image of distinguished Nigerians. When we continue to make that part of our discourse, we seem to give them credence. But let me say this clearly. I have no case of tax evasion. I have residence in the U.S. I was given an additional assessment of about $9 million several years ago. This over time I've reduced to about $2 million. And I went into a summary judgment with the authorities, allowed them enter summary judgment. And after judgment, you get into collection. And at that point, you enter further negotiations with them. That's how the tax law works. So you have some junk journalists who are paid by political losers to tarnish people. You know, I'd rather not lend credence to that kind of discourse.
Whether you like it or not, whether it is true, whether there is truth to it or not, once it's in the public space, people are left to their opinion, and that's why we give you the opportunity to clarify that. The second of that also involves a congressman, I think it was William Jefferson, who has now been convicted. And there were also allegations that there were bribery claims on your part. But you have said that instead, you were the one who actually reported him to the FBI and the EFCC. Give us in a minute, because I now want to get to your vision for the country. Just in a minute, what exactly played out in that situation?
Over a decade ago, my company, NDTV, we were starting a satellite pay TV operation, and I had met this congressman during a summit. He came with Bill Clinton, and during that summit, he had mentioned to me that he had access to some technology, and my company had paid the company that he represented some money. And eventually I found out that it was a scam. So when I found he was not forthcoming with technology he was supposed to provide, I reported the matter to the EFCC and also to the FBI. He was later arrested in America for hiding $100,000, but that was from someone else in the US. It actually had nothing to do with my case against him. Eventually, I went to America. I testified against him. He went to jail. I believe he might be out of jail now. I don't know. So that's what happened. So, I mean, and the matter is in the public dominion. It's there on the internet. Everyone knows what the case is about. So when you see junkyard journalists who stand truth on its head, it's appalling. But that's one of the things we need to clean up in our nation. You know, we have the Cybercrime Act now, and we need to use it to ensure that people like this don't operate freely in a democratic setting.
Just a few minutes ago, now I'm moving away from the controversies and getting into exactly what you stand for and what your campaign stands for. Just a few minutes ago, I saw a post on your Twitter handle where there was you at the middle. We had the presidential candidate of the NNPP, Kwankwaso, and you put there I think Northwest, and there was Peter Obi, you put there Southeast. There was Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and you put there Southwest. I can't remember who, Atiku, and then you put there, I think, Northeast. And for yourself, you put there Nigerian. You are from, you're Igbo, and one would think that you will also put there Southeast, but you seem to have put there Nigerian. You think you're more Nigerian than these other presidential candidates?
It's not about being more Nigerian, but my party and and me also, I don't stand for using words or things that continue to divide us. I am first and foremost a Nigerian. We cannot approach politics from the point of ethnic divisions or tribe and tongue like we do all the time. So I've always made that very, very clear that that's not who I am. That's not what my party stands for, and that's why I say politically I am Nigerian. Our party stands for Nigeria. We believe that we all stand under the green, white, green of our flag. So any ethnic posturing or any regional posturing is not something we support or stand for.
And you think that your party has made enough inroads into some of these local, regions and zones in Nigeria to guarantee you or to better your chances in the 2023 election?
We have 8 months. My party is, I think that in terms of size and spread, my party is number 3 in the country. We have 8 months to continue to advance our argument to make a case to Nigerians. The structure of a party is not about buildings. Structure of a party is about the electorate, Nigerians, okay? And as Nigerians continue to buy in and join and volunteer to work with your party, you find that the spread continues to grow. That's what we see, and that's what we'll continue to see as we approach general elections.
Mr. Kachikwu, the structure for parties is also about 197,000 polling units around the country that requires at least two party agents to man those polling units. If you do the math, that takes you to about almost 400,000, if not close to that, almost 400,000 agents. Some of them paid, some of them by volunteer. But do you have, in that structure, does your party have the capacity to man every polling unit in this country and at least pay, if not all of them, but some of those polling party agents?
So let me say this clearly to you. People who are not in political space make a song and dance about this. When the APC came into power, APC didn't have a widespread structure across the country. They had some, but they didn't have polling agents in every polling unit across the country. But what happened? The people are the structure. The people determined who won that election. And that's what will happen again. So what happens in every election cycle is that you will have parties or some of the better known parties continue to scare voters with such things. Now, in previous dispensations, what they put out there is elections are not safe or your votes don't count, and then people have this apathy. Now, what they say is about structure. You have hundreds of thousands of polling agents that you require, and smaller parties or lesser known parties don't have that. That's balderdash, okay? It's about the people. The people will ultimately volunteer. They will defend their votes. And if the people trust you, if the people want to work with you, they decide who they want to work with, okay?
Well, many would say that as much as the APC was a new party, it was a merger of parties that already had structures in the different regions. For example, the CPC already had a structure in the north. The ACN already had a structure in the southwest. You had ABGA that already had a structure in the southeast. And then the NPDP, which was a new PDP, that already had a structure in the south-south. So, I mean, they had that structure. They brought all of that structure together to make, to give APC the structure that it now has. I'm not sure that your party, ADC, can say that it has that structure. But because of time, let me ask you about your vision. You are a builder. One of your businesses actually revolves around building, and you have said that you want to transfer that knowledge into building Nigeria. What exactly, you're building a new Nigeria? What's your concept of a new Nigeria?
So let me correct what you just said earlier on. ABGA as a party had only one state, which was Anambra State, okay? Then when you talk about the new PDP, again, what I was talking about, aspirations of people, okay? The new PDP didn't have structures. They just had some people who supported them, okay? You had the ACN, like you mentioned, but if you look at the congregation of all those parties, they didn't have the kind of structure anywhere near what PDP had. But what happened? The people were fed up, okay? APC was able to sell them this message that PDP had failed. It was a corrupt government, and the people bought it and they voted out PDP. That's what happened. So let's not have this notion that these parties came together and formed one mammoth or one mega structure, one mega party that took on PDP. That's not what happened. It will always be about the people. Now, back to what you were saying about what I stand for. Yes, I'm a builder. I believe that the first line item in building is the foundation. I think the foundation is a vision, okay? And I believe that this is where we've gotten it wrong in Nigeria all this time. We don't have a vision that unifies all Nigerians. We were handed this geographical expression or this geographical region by the British, and ab initio were divided along ethnic lines and religious lines. And it was a business. So they handed this business, the former directors handed it over to new directors, and what they've continued to do is to mine this business. Successive directors come in and mine and take their profits, okay? So, but if you look at our national character, none exists. We're a country of every man for himself and God for us all. It's about me, myself, and I. So we need to go back to the basics. We need to have a foundation that works, a national character, a charter that defines who we are under the banner of our flag. So as a party, as an individual, what am I advocating? I say we have to have a country that works for every Nigerian. We have to have a country where everyone is equal before the law, where the law does not speak different things to the rich and then different things to the poor. We have to have a country that supports the weak, the elderly, the poor. We have to have a country whose borders are secure, whose highways are secure. We have to have a country whose export is not Yahoo, and whose import is not terrorism. We need to have a country that protects and supports women to thrive. We need to have a country where 40 million unemployed can thrive. We need to give them a platform that enables them to thrive in Nigeria. We need to have a country where we can't be announcing every Wednesday contracts for roads and bridges that lead to nowhere, whereas the highway of the future is the internet. The internet is a fundamental right now. It should not be a privilege. We need to have a country that where we understand that the number one asset of the nation is the Nigerian man and woman and child. That's the asset of the country.
Absolutely, and you have a lot of strategies for security, for economy, and I wish we have enough time to talk about it now, but I'm sure I would have you again and again as the campaign begins in earnest. Thank you so much for your time, Presidential Candidate of the ADC, Dumebi Kachikwu.
Thanks for having me.